The Bounty Hunters. We finally got a live one. We got her good and drunk. First we're gonna rob her, and then we're gonna... The slamming of the door behind them, cuts of the men singing together with glee as they carry their newest capture right into the chain breaker without any resistance but a lot of cheers from the onlookers. One more bounty, this one worth only a piddling 500,000 credits, and they leave the ship in high spirits to find either a cocky-as-hell Tret or another human waiting for them. I know you, Mr. T says, snapping his fingers. You're Harold? Hank? Horace? Hoagie, Hoagie says. Isn't that a sandwich? Mustard asks. It's a nickname. I always went for a sandwich in training and tried to always make them as a sort of comfort food. They tried calling me Sandwich for a while. The drill instructors tried to make shit sandwich stick, but it didn't flow. So I'm Hoagie, he explains, and there are some snorts. Fair enough. Did we cross a line, or... Pukey asks, and Hoagie shakes his head. Actually, I'm here to show you something. You see, each dock area's got a honking huge warehouse used as a scrapyard. Throw you junk in there and the station resells it at scrap value if we don't use it ourselves. It's a good way of getting rid of things you can't sell proper without dropping things in the space line to act like a relativistic landmine. Better manners to dump it in a place like this, you see, Hoagie explains. Makes sense. You're implying there's something interesting? Intact, it's fucking terrifying, but you chop it up and you've got a lot of decent parts, just not for what they were intended for. Hoagie explains, reaching up and drawing air quotes around intended. What is it? Bike asks. The worst shuttle ever. It's a piece of junk so poorly designed that even the most desperate will never use it out of atmosphere. Even then, they tend to fly these things close to the ground. Not bad for a shuttle rated for inter-system transportation, eh? Okay. The fact that it sounds like a train wreck to be is fascinating, but is there something more to it? It may be a piece of shit, but it's in very good shape. Brand new, really, no one dares to actually use these things. Which means the components, the engines, the flight computer, the stabilizers, the artificial gravity, atmospherics, radio, inertial dampeners, landing gear. The ship is completely intact. It's just not fit for purpose as a cross-system shuttle. It could easily be broken down for parts, say to soup up an air truck. Hoagie propositions and Airfarce steps forward. What are these engines rated for? Inter-system, planet to planet. This thing can safely land on a world and theoretically take off again and go to another one. But what makes it so terrible? Airfarce presses. It's got nothing in the way of backups or wiggle room. If it's running at anything less than absolutely perfect peak performance, then the whole house of cards comes crashing down. There are no backups, no redundancies, and no room for failure. It can technically be used for purpose, but only if there's no such thing as random chance or unknown variables. So it's basically a massive game of chicken with both Murphy and the Reaper to fly it world to world. Airfarce notes in thought. Yeah, but the parts, if used on something smaller and with some proper backups, you want that Aetertuck of yours to keep pace with starships? Because this thing's got the engines for it. Hell, just the sheer amount of metal in good condition alone is worth the price. Also, if you don't snatch it up, I will, and I'm going to convert it into a semi-mobile man cave, Hoagie mentions. Okay, you've made the sales pitch. You gonna show us this thing? Pukey asks, and Hoagie nods before leaning to the side and seeing Scaly. Who's the kid? I'm Scaly, he says. I can see that. What are you doing with these clowns? Hoagie asks. The ship used to be a slaver's vessel. They saved me. My actual name is Slithern, but they can't get the hisses right. Shape of the tongue. So I'm Scaly. The kid explains and Hoagie nods. Cool, I'm Commander Daniel Eastman. Or Hoagie, Hoagie says, holding his hand out to Scaly, who takes it. The kid gets a firm handshake and a grin. Is that just the emergency promotion, or did you finish the training? Pukey asks. The training. The EFL does a fair amount of talking among ourselves, so we try to push one another to finish either the initial training or the catch-up courses, especially now that we're technically the first human extrasolar nation. We need to set a good example. Hoagie answers and Pukey nods. Good man. So let's see this thing, Pukey says, and Hoagie nods before gesturing for them to follow. He leads them through the docking area until they come to a large double door with the marking reading Drops in Galactic Trade. Drops? Scaly asks, and Hoagie shrugs. It's an in-joke that I don't get, he says, leading them in. Holy shit, Pukey remarks as he sees the heaping mounds of different junked ship parts, broken weapons, random chunks of metal, and busted furniture. There are dozens of them, each one several stories tall and all of it shockingly new-looking. Yeah, you guys should be thankful. We make a point of clearing out the organic waste piles every half day. Half the time it's burnt to ash. The other half it's shot for a round trip around the nearest star in a flying glass bulb and comes back fully rotted by the solar bombardment. Isn't that what you do with the sewage? Pukey asks, and Hoagie nods. Yep, he answers before jerking his head. This way. He leads them around the nearby weapon and scrap metal piles, and then beyond a furniture heap to see. That doesn't look so bad, Airfarce says as he sees the ship. It's vaguely shaped like a W on top of a square with clear hinges in the wings to allow it all to spread out and help with its profile. The individual components are fine, as I said. That includes the hull and wings. It's just so badly put together that it barely works as intended, Hoagie remarks as he opens the door. Hey, this marking, it's in Meccan, Scaly notes as he sees a gear-like symbol on the wing. Good eye, kid. This thing was made in the Meccan Reach, mostly due to loopholes. How's that work? Scaly asks. I'll explain in a bit. Come on in. Hoagie invites them and they pile in after him. The chamber's small and there's a lot of little cupboards and closet with a large plush chair in front of a control panel. Now toss the place over with what you know about the tech and tell me what's missing. Because this thing is completely up to specs, as terrifying as that is. Are we really? Pukey begins. The fuck? Airfarce demands, and everyone turns to see him with one of the rearmost panels open and his head stuck inside. He leans out with a puzzled look that has Hoagie scrambling for his communicator to snap a picture. It passes before he can get one. There's only one power siphon and no backups. No gas, no energy crystals, no solid fuel bricks, no wiring to suggest things like solar panels, no microgenerators, no nothing. Ding, ding, ding. Major problem with the ship #1. It only has a single power source, no backups, no replacements, nothing for emergencies, and no tools to fix it if it goes belly up, Hoagie explains. That's the theme here. The ship works, but there's no margin for failure. Thankfully, the parts are Meccan standard, so high quality for scrapping or upgrading. Just one engine, too. Kinda big for a ship this size, but just one. I'm not seeing maneuvering thrusters here, Scaly remarks as he looks in the closet at the back. Check the ceiling panels. This ship uses personal gravity manipulation to steer. There's another scare there. Hoagie prompts them, jerking his thumb upwards a few times to emphasize what he's saying. Beyond the power being a single accident away from gone and the engines following its big brother's example? J3 asks as he reaches up to unlatch a panel and pulls it out. He then blinks rapidly as he tries to process what he's seeing. Those are a lot of exposed wires. And if a single one is crossed, clipped, or shaken out of its connector, the steering takes a massive hit. Fuck me. The sniper breathes out with a somewhat scared expression. You're not pretty enough. Hoagie jokes and there are some snorts, then he points to their feet. Floor panels got life support on the left half and shielding on the right. The floors are pried up with ease, and there are a series of muffled curses and impressed whistles. Okay, this shielding system is about as powerful as what I've got on our van. Which granted is a little souped up. For atmospheric flight alone, the fuck is this thing doing on a spaceship? Dong demands in disgust. Technically rated for micrometeors and re-entry, which is all it technically needs. There's nothing technical about this one, though. There's no backup here. No oxygen tanks, no atmosphere candles, not even 2 scrubbers or even a fucking gas mask if shit goes sideways. Just an algae scrubber system to take what you've breathed out and make it clean. If even a micro hole opens in the hull, this ship is hosed. Tang says. Okay, close up those nightmares, gents. Pukey orders and the floor panels are shut. He steps forward and crosses his arms to give Hoagie a half-pissed, half-baffled look. The fuck is going on with this thing? I thought the Meccan Reach was famous for its solid work. The components are solid. Each individual part is pristine and perfectly suited for purpose. Hoagie. All right. This is due to legislation. In the Meccan Reach, ships are categorized by size with its largest dimension putting it in its legal category. Build long, tall, wide, or whatever, and the biggest one is counted for legal requirements on the ship. One of these requirements is a number of escape pods and shuttles. Otherwise, it can't legally be sold and you can be fined for flying an unsafe vessel in Meccan space. You following? So far? Right, well, this makes sense by itself. Bigger ships have a hell of a time landing on worlds and docking with stations, so the shuttles are practical. This mess is what happens when sensible legislation runs into an exception. Cargo haulers typically have huge hitch systems to latch onto their cargo regardless of size or make. The hitches are counted as part of the structure, and they tend to kick a hauler up 2 or even 3 size categories. So this whole ship was designed to be the cheapest way possible to chase off paper pushers looking for a bribe, Airfarce realizes. Exactly, and those paper pushers can't chase outside the Meccan reach, meaning a lot of stations and scrap yards get these suckers dumped on us pretty regularly, as the reach makes some of the best cargo haulers in the galaxy. So this is the mint on a hotel room pillow. I gotcha. Makes a lot more sense now, Pukey remarks. So it's got some decent parts and it's going for scrap metal price? 2,000 credits. Total. Yes, you're being fleeced, but it's pennies for you guys and the parts are in honest-to-God good shape, Hoagie remarks with a grin, and Pukey thinks. You know, it's a pretty good deal, Airfarce begins, and Pukey waves him off. Is there a second-hand tool pile nearby? I'll buy, but only if you let me store some things in here. By all means. The ship gets weighed, then sold with these things averaging at around 2,000. Tip the scale and it's on you. You're admitting to us getting fleeced? Scaly asks with a baffled expression. Pirate station, kiddo, if you're looking for fair prices, start by stealing something, Hoagie remarks, and Airfarce gives him a massive grin. Not from the station, though. Remember the rules. Pay your dues is number 2. Nuts, the Hat says, slipping his brass knuckles back into his pocket. Paying with someone else's wallet, though, is perfectly acceptable, isn't it? Scaly asks, and Hoagie nods. Then today's salvage is on Awu, Awi, however the hell you pronounce this. You sneaky little shit, Hoagie says, taking the wallet and glancing inside. He lets out a piercing whistle when he spots the few coins before handing it back. Well, you ruined someone's day. Guess the kid's about to own this death trap. There are some chuckles as Scaly smugly pockets the stolen wallet. Love and longing. Oh, no, no, no. Out, out, out. You brought the kill, you don't cook it. Out, out, out. The chef protests, and Vernon is forced from the cooking tent to Miro Noir's amusement. He takes a moment to adjust his vest and walks up to her. Did you even get a chance to request that some be set aside for you to spice yourself? She asks. Not at all. I got 2 steps in and then chased out, Vernon remarked. Though things did look like they were proceeding apace, everything should be ready soon. Excellent. Most of the community probably skipped lunch like we did. A Leviathan is a rare treat. She notes calmly as she takes him by the arm. Most girls are going to be plenty hungry, so a touch more irrational. Still, with me holding you fast, there won't be any silliness. Let's hope an impromptu tournament doesn't kick off. There are far too many romantic stories that involve some third party beating up some poor Apuk and stealing the husband until she trains up and wins him back. Don't think I can win you back? Miro Noir teases, and he gives her a somewhat offended look, as if the idea of him doubting her was somehow more offensive to him than to her. It took some effort to bite down on the amusement that mental image conjured. I don't like the idea that some crazy floozy would try to beat you up over me. I know you're a warrior, but that doesn't mean I like the idea of you being hurt, Vernon says, and she titters at the idea. Such a goof, she chides him with a giggle. She'd managed to get out of the pants and had traded for a stitched-together patchwork dress. Apparently, village or town festivals were expected to dress down somewhat and stay in that level. Only her crown was any hint she was a battle princess. He himself was in a vest and pants of the same type with a t-shirt underneath. The vest was quite scratchy. Get out of my cooking tent, you little monsters! The chef screams out, and both of them turn in time to see a trinity of Apuk girls racing out of the tent with squeals of laughter as they carry well-charred bits of meat. The chef stands there with her hands on her hips before smiling even as Miro Noir dissolves into giggles. Why do I get the feeling that she wasn't quite so upset? Vernon asks curiously. The scrapings. The last bits that curl off the bones as they're being burnt for soup broth. They're scraped off and put in a bowl. They're for the children, but they can't always wait. Everyone does it at least once when they're small. Run the kitchen, grab a handful of scrapings, and race out before the head chef can catch you. Ah, little traditions like that. Like getting a glass of wine around holidays or turkey on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Speaking of, I'm not sure I fully understand this turkey meat you've mentioned before. The idea of some kind of natural poison in the beast even after being cooked which puts you to sleep is bizarre. Tryptophan. It's completely harmless. You'd have to devour obscene and impractical amounts all in one sitting to actually hurt yourself. But it's used in several powerful anesthetics. In concentrated forms, yes, but the amount in a whole turkey is maybe a quarter dose at most. I suppose, still, what kind of creature is a turkey? You said it's some kind of bird, but is it predatory prey? Does it move in flocks, or— You! An upset voice declares. It is them! A pair of familiar faces rush in and skid to a stop before them. It's Lorivrin and Terry Fwus. You two need to knock it off. You're making us look bad. Worse actually for the girl you took out first. Terry Fwus chides him and he scoffs. I'm sorry, we'll try to have our time together interrupted by some other kind of stupid hostile creature. Perhaps a star monster or maybe a small army, Miro Noir asks, and Vernon chuckles. You do that, though you might want to keep your sorcerer under wraps a bit more. If you weren't a battle princess, he'd already have been dragged off to a dozen different beds, Lorivrin says with a chuckle. And would yours be one of them? Miro Noir asks, stepping between Vernon and the two other Apuk. Princess, there's not a single unmarried Apuk that wouldn't jump on the chance. You made it clear you'd only take other battle princesses into consideration, and that's fair. But you should know that about half the planet is going to be involved in the next tournament, if not a considerable percentage of our species. Lorivrin answers, and Miro Noir gives them both a bit of a glare, and they lean back somewhat. Miro Noir leans back with a smug grin. So long as you two keep your hands to yourself, I have no issue with either of you. You both nearly earned the rank of princess after all, and I encourage you both to keep training, and hope you don't run up against the likes of my husband again. He's a bit much to take in a fight. Yes, well, no doubt he's the only human of his capacity. You got the diamond of the race. Lucky. Why is your smile nearly splitting your face? Terry Fwus asks. I'm one of the better ones, but there are 100 dedicated Axiom researchers, of which I am only one of many. If you're looking for more technical and tricky abilities, yes, I'm an excellent candidate. But Franklin in the EFL has the raw power to flatten me in seconds. We've got a Mahdi who could have me chasing my own shadows for hours. Lore's an expert at making wildly varying Axiom totems. The list keeps going, and what you saw in the tournament? That was something that was the result of all of us putting our heads together. I was just the guy showing it all off. Vernon, while smug rarely looks good, you're allowed to be proud of your accomplishments. You're the only sorcerer among your race after all, Miro Noir chides him. Maybe, but that won't last. Even now, volunteers are being screened to bring in more. Really? Terry Fwus asks excitedly. Really, they and I, for that matter, are getting some extra training to go through with my hidden village idea, Vernon remarks before smirking. After the honeymoon, though, I'm still on break. Hidden? Lorivrin begins as Miro Noir puts a finger to her lips. I think we've said too much already. Needless to say, even though it's going to be quite the high barrier of entry to be with my husband, there are other human sorcerers soon on Serbo, Miro Noir says before reaching out and grabbing both women around the mouths. Keep quiet about it, all right? It's not a secret, but I'd personally like it to be a nice surprise. And you had to ruin it for us, how could you? Terry Fwus teases. You could choose to forget it then. Besides, it's not like being ready for something ahead of time helps you prepare to take advantage of a situation and— Oh, wait, Vernon says, and both Terry Fwus and Lorivrin give each other excited looks. When? Lorivrin begins and gets a disappointed look from Vernon. Right. Shh, have fun at the festival. Come on, Terry, we need to start planning. The two of them rush out, already deep in conspiracy, as Miro Noir crosses her arms with a smug look on her face. Two down, she mutters to herself. What was that? Vernon asks, having already deduced that she wants the other finalists in the tournament focused elsewhere. Why? He doesn't know. Maybe she thinks she'll have to chase them off in a few months after the next tournament. Maybe she just really likes tying up loose ends. Either way, it's harmless. So how much longer do you think they'll be cooking the beast for? I'm ravenous, and I doubt I'm the only one, Vernon asks, and there's a slight rumbling sound from Miro Noir. Case in point. Not too much longer. If the children are grabbing the scrapings, then it's nearly finished. On the extreme outside, then it's another hour. At most, Miro Noir answers, and Vernon nods in appreciation. Makes sense to me, so we should probably find— He trails off as a large flaming hoop comes spinning by, two children on the top running backwards and another two in the bottom as a small crowd pushing it along travels behind. That's a level of playing with fire I've never seen before. It's just mundane flame. By the time a little girl's 3, she's got nothing to fear from so cool a war fire, let alone a natural one, Miro Noir assures him. The look on your face is so baffled it's adorable. Sorry, it's just— Wow, Vernon remarks. Culture clash, I've seen it quite a bit. You haven't been with us long. I've seen Canadors play martial games shooting at one another with fully charged plasma bolts. Pavarists play fight so hard that the environment around them is shredded in minutes at most. I've seen Gobe kart races. Those little maniacs put rocket engines on cobbled-together scrap with wheels and somehow don't kill themselves. Surely humans have fun little competitions as well. We do it it doesn't seem as dangerous to us. Camping out at night in the woods, contests as to who can eat the spiciest things, Mexicans and Indians keep winning those. Baseball with sticks and rocks. Play fighting with sticks and rocks. Actually, now that I think about it, that probably sounds dangerous to you with how much poison a human can process. Vernon realizes. Just as how that romping role those girls were playing looked dangerous to you, I can imagine you getting into a competition on who can eat the spiciest, though. What happens? It's simple enough. Take a big bowl of baseline food like a chili or something. Take a pitcher of milk and pour it into 2 glasses. The competitors each take a bite of the food after some spice is added. Then slowly add more and more spice to the food until one side or the other gives up by drinking the milk and nullifying the spices. Sometimes you skip the basic food and see who can eat the most of something naturally spicy like hot peppers, Vernon explains. As dangerous to an apuk as running in or on a flaming barrel is to a human. It's one of the first things I learned out in the galaxy. Everyone's got some kind of advantage that took their race right to the top. Intelligence is one of them, but back when we were all animals, there was something that let them live long enough to grow wise. Miro Noir muses as she remembers going from world to world without much direction. So much time spent trying to become a battle princess, but not much of a plan for afterwards. Ah, such as incredible beauty, Vernon remarks as he gently holds Miro Noir and gives her a kiss. Oh, you, she says before kissing him back, and they hold each other tightly for a few moments. Only to be interrupted by a ringing bell. Is that what I think it is? Vernon asks. If you're thinking dinner, then it is indeed. Let's find our seats. We're to be at the front along with the master chefs for bringing in the kill. Miro Noir explains and begins leading Vernon towards the cooking tents. Best not leave the people waiting. There may be a riot on our hands if we do. Vernon jokes, and Miro Noir giggles somewhat. There you two are. Come, come, come! It's time to begin! The chef exclaims as they rush past the cooking tent and towards the rows of tables. Your seats are here. Now I understand this is the first time for your human husband? First time for any human at all. This kind of creature has never... No, I suppose whales are somewhat similar. Granted, those gentle giants are best just left alone. I've never eaten anything like this. Yes, you have. Miro Noir corrects him. I have? You remember the crunchy bits in the salad you ate during the tournament? Yes, I said it was like bacon. Those were scrapings. All from animals like this. Ooh, a pork feast. Wait, roasted boar folksy outfits? Princesses, sorcerers, I'm in a twisted fantasy novel. You just noticed? Miro Noir asks with a very amused tone. I was a little busy just being with you, my dear. How is that anything but a fantasy come to life? She sighs in appreciation. All right, enough, you two. No need to make me jealous. You two made the kill, so you two get the first serving, the head chef says, and then sets down a pair of platters down. Now, as this is your first time to one of these, Sir Sorcerer, I'll be quickly explaining what's what. Please and thank you, Vernon says. We start with this bowl here on the edge. This is the burnt marrow broth, and it has a hefty portion of leviathan tendon. It's very tough normally, but the broth loosens it up and it falls apart from a corded rope into multiple noodles. Save it long enough and you can easily slurp it down. It's very smooth and tasty, and the two flavors complement each other immensely. She then points to a series of sliced pieces of round meat. This is a typical shank slow roasted over the last 3 hours and melt in your mouth. These biscuits? Vernon asks, gesturing to the small-looking circles. Palate cleansers. They're warm and buttery and the taste fades quickly. Now next up are these thin slices. These are from the more rubbery tentacles and usually have a hard time tearing through with your teeth, but have been tenderized and sliced thin after being slow roasted. Oh, come on, we're hungry! A young voice echoes out from further down, and Vernon chuckles. I can figure things out. Best make sure they don't start a riot. He bids her and the chef huffs, but there's a clear smile. Fine. I'll leave it to your wife to explain the rest.